Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Masta Killa, how are you doing?
Peace. I'm great. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show, Masta Killa. We have a hip-hop legend joining me on the phone lines today. One of the greatest of all time. Definitely the greatest hip-hop group of all time, in my opinion, Wu-Tang. Balance, his new solo album, available on all platforms now. He's getting ready for this upcoming Wu-Tang tour. Black Samson, the Bastard Swordsman. Welcome to the show, man. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me, man.
Of course, it's an honor, like I said before. How are you feeling about the new release of Balance? And then you also had this Wu-Tang album that just came out, so you're getting a lot of things out into the open here for your fans at the right time. And it was also the 28th anniversary of Wu-Tang Forever yesterday.
All the stars are lining up, brother. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely happy that it's being well received. You know what I mean? I love hip hop. And I just want to, give that to my fans that deserve great music.
Absolutely, and it's timeless, and that's something that was so intriguing on this new album, which I was listening to it with the track Trumpets with Nori and AZ and Uncle Murda, was that you kind of mentioned it that you didn't do it for the fame and you didn't do it for the name, you just did it. So was that kind of a more of a dig and just an appreciation for the art, and instead of what you're seeing out here now, kind of hip hop it's like a trend and people are just doing it to get famous?
Man, that should be principle with anything that you apply yourself to in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Anything that you apply yourself to in life should come from the space of the joy or, the motivation of really why you do what you do, whatever that may be. It should always come from within.
I agree. It's a true passion. That's what you guys do. The lyrical experts, there's no doubt about it. And this album is definitely one for the ages. Where did the name Balance come from? Because I know it's something that you wanted to strike a chord with people to maybe come up with a concept or idea that sparks some inspiration. So what is your definition of balance?
Well, sometimes you can take something so simple, right,
mm-hmm.
that, you might use in everyday language, right, but it has so much depth and meaning, like the word balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Balance is something that we should all practice in our everyday life, you know what I mean, to maintain and make sure everything in our life is balanced. Not too much of this, not too little of that, but striving to keep everything balanced. Now, as far as being a fan of music, there's a lot of music that's just one kind of way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not knocking it. It's for those who like it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, music is universal. You see what I'm saying? Now, I have to bring it to where I think my people would like to hear it, or my fans would like to hear it. You know what I mean? And that's what brings balance to the musical universe. And that's what Wu-Tang does. That's what Masta Killa does. And that's what I always strive to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love how you open the album with paying homage to all the greats that came before you, because that's so rare. It kind of reminded me of what Tupac did back in the day with the song Old School. I think that's much needed. And I hope that people who are coming out now, I know like J. Cole, he appreciates the greats, but even the newer artists, they show some appreciation in that way in which you did in opening up the album.
That's very important, because those are, if I missed somebody, forgive me, but all of those people inspired me in some kind of way. Before I was even thinking about doing this, I was listening to someone, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all inspiration, you know what I mean, to what I still do to this day. So there's definitely the dedication and, enough respect, always do, to all the greats.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Who was that DJ that really you were locked in with first when it came to even just pushing yourself as a solo artist? Because you mentioned a couple DJs on here. I know Chuck Chillout's a legend. Cool Chip, we know his collaborations and what he's done for hip hop. So who was that first DJ that really had your back and supported you?
I can't really just say one particular DJ. You know what I mean? I give homage to all DJs and whoever, spent the record, you know what I mean? From our first into the Wu-Tang, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever spent the record, I'm the one pillar of hip hop, how it all started. It started with the DJ, you know what I mean? So, I always have to give respect and pay homage to the DJ, no matter who he is, even if he didn't even spin my record, you know what I mean? But it started with the DJ, man. And, props as always should be given to the DJ.
Mm-hmm. And the park jams, you would hear the sounds from the boom bap and just the instrumentals from the park jams nearby. So do you remember your first park jam that you actually went to?
I can remember the first park jam that I couldn't go to.
Oh,
being too young to actually go to the park. You know what I mean? Because certain park jams were after dark. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So I couldn't actually even go. But I would hear the music. I would be in my window in my home and just at the window like half the night just listening. You know what I mean? To the good time. Being enjoyed by the people who were in the park. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was before I could even go to the park. But yeah, first park jams that inspired me were like park jams by a group called Divine Sounds. You know what I mean? They out of Bed-Stuy. You know what I mean? And they used to do neighborhood park jams and stuff like that. And I used to be mesmerized, man, just being there at the turntable, just watching Mike and watching Disco Richie and they doing their thing. And, yeah, inspirational, man.
Absolutely. And because your mother was someone that sent you to travel and just go on vacation. So what was that most impactful place early on in your career? Was it Puerto Rico? Was that one of the ones that you went to at a young age?
Yeah, I was blessed that my elementary school. When I was in the sixth grade, a beautiful lady who worked in my community by the name of Miss Dobbs. She always did positive things for the community and the children in the community and things like that. So our class trip for sixth grade, she made sure that we got to go to Puerto Rico for our class trip. You know what I mean? So, props and enough respect to Ms. Dobbs, rest in power forever. You know what I mean? But yeah, things like that. That was like one of my first. That was a school trip.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother always kept me, abroad and just seeing other things and just the block. You know what I mean? She wanted to make sure that I reached for more than what I would just see every day. You know what I mean?
And just think about it, even with traveling, that you would be doing this someday. And even in the UK, Wu-Tang Forever was the #1 album there, which is insane to even see that just all the passports that you had to get and just all the traveling you're still doing to this day worldwide.
Right. She kind of, put me on the path, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He put me on the path, and I'm just walking in it right now, man. And it's a blessing,
Absolutely. And it all started too, True Master in high school. So what was your first meeting with True Master? How did you get connected with him?
Well, that was before high school. That's like junior high school.
Okay.
When I moved from Bed-Stuy to East New York, he was like one of the first people I met in East New York. You know what I mean? And we went to junior high school together and stuff like that. So, we always were, good friends, brothers. And, one day I went to go see him. And when I went to go see him, my brother Justice was there, which is the Jizza.
Mm-hmm.
So we met, and the first day we met, we've been building ever since,
Monumental legacy, just so much history there. And with the Jizza too, because he was the one that showed you the Protect Your Neck, the original demo before it even was finalized. And was then at that point, once you heard that, did you go home and start writing this verse for the Mystery of Chessboxin?
Indeed so. Indeed so, because I've always been a fan of hip hop. You know what I mean? I could always say everybody else's rhymes. You know what I mean? But, when he played that for me, it was like, oh man, I was like, I didn't know if I could actually do it. I didn't know if he was going to, I didn't know what he was going to do or how he was going to react. But I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to put some thoughts down on paper just for him. I just want to see what he thinks about it. And, the rest is history. I'm sitting here to this day based on what he read on that
paper. A legendary verse. And you're such a big chess guy, but I didn't realize when doing my research on you that you were in the checkers early on. So what kind of drew you to chess from checkers?
Well, checkers was uh, when I was a child. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? I didn't have the patience for chess. You know what I mean? Because chess is for, I would say, a more mature type of mind frame. Now, not saying you can't have that at a young age, but I couldn't sit still when I was a child. You know what I mean? So sitting still to understand what this piece did and what that piece, I didn't have that patience. So checkers was good, jump, move. You know what I mean? So it was a faster paced game. Now let me say something. Now there's still a lot of strategy that goes into checkers. I mean, I don't like to underplay a checker player because it still takes skill and strategy to win. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's still science to that game. It's just when you step to another level of a board game and experience of chess, it just goes deeper into, the strategies and a way of thinking. But I don't like to underplay a checker player. You know what I mean? It's all strategy and it's all science to everything.
That's right. Have you guys thought about, in particular, you and Jizza, maybe potentially releasing your own version of a chess game, or just even one with your own rules, kind of a play off of the song "Mystery of Chessboxin"?
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I don't know about changing the rules,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Because, some things are not to be tampered with. It's what keeps everything in order. There's a balance to everything. That's another reason why I call the album balance. And a lot of things are imbalanced or off balance. And, some things you have to keep pure, you know what I mean, to actually keep a balance. You know what I mean? And but that's interesting. That's interesting.
Very true. I would love to see that if that were able to come about. I think that would be something for the ages. Do you remember the first time that all you guys were in the studio, you and the other 8 members? Because I think that was like an era where it can't be replicated today because everything's over emails and everything's digital now. But that was why records were so powerful back then, was that you were all in the studio to make it together in Riz's basement, of course. So do you remember the first recording session where all you guys were there together?
I can remember several just times of just being in recording session or just, even before a recording session, rhyme ciphers. First of all, cipher is a circle or zero, correct?
Hmm.
And now when we're all standing in a rhyme cipher and everyone is just, spitting their dart and it's going to the next man and it's going to the next man. Those days, oh man, priceless. Priceless. If we had camera phones back then, you know, some of that footage, oh man, right now would be priceless. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I can remember times of like that. That was even before the studio. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, those are the real epic moments to what was going on behind the scenes that really put into the records. And even with Steve Rifkin, I had him on my show, and he was telling me about getting you guys signed to that Loud Records deal. And there was what really intrigued them was not only hearing Cream and just hearing the records. There was this guy, I guess, that was in the studio session or came out of the studio session that said, "That's that shit." That's what Steve Rifkin told me. Do you remember who this guy was, or because he said he never saw him
Nah,
again?
nah, I can't. I can't remember. I can't remember who that would have been. But it's a blessing to have created something that how you feel in your heart about it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But for it to be received as well as it has been, still to this day by the fans, and like I said, it's truly a blessing, and I'm honored to be a part of this movement. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and Wu-Tang's forever. You see it everywhere. T-shirts. It's the most important logo in hip hop to me, and you see it everywhere. It's gonna live on forever. It's kind of like that sign where it says "Presidents are temporary" and Wu-Tang is forever. I
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. That was cool.
It was, yeah, amazing, and it's true. It really is. Wu Tang's always going to be with us, and thank you to your contributions and just everything you've done as well. But with the album Balance, how is the collaboration with Snoop? I know you're close with Corrupt. You've worked with him a couple times already, and on the track with Rakim. So how is it working with Snoop on this album?
Man, listen, man, that Snoop is one of my favorite MCs that I've always wanted to work with, right? But I never want to work with someone for the sake of just doing it. You know what I mean? I finally found one that I said, yeah, I can hear him. I can hear the dog on this one. You know what I'm saying? And he came and he did exactly what I knew he would do. And, thank you to him, Snoop. You know what I mean? My brother Meth, they came and they did what I knew what they would do. And, yeah, that's a beautiful, one of my favorite off the album.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely one of the standout ones. I think I mentioned before, It's Been a Long Time was my favorite off of the record, especially with you opening up about your love of hip hop and just everything starting early on in your career. I think that was a personal story and then paying homage to Rakim. So how was it working with Rakim on his previous project with BL? Because that was what Corrupt was on as well.
Right. Come on. You're talking about another pillar, you know what I mean, of this art form of hip hop, man. Rakim is one of the greatest who's ever grabbed the mic. So, to work with him is an honor. You know what I mean? It's an honor. I've always been listening to Ross since he, came in the door and said it before. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was truly an honor to work with my brother, man. And yeah.
Yeah, another legend. And another one, too, I wanted to touch on this with Raekwon, We Will Rob You with Slick Rick. So how was that studio session? Because that's they say it, he's the greatest storyteller in hip-hop of all time.
You're talking about all the greats right there, man. You know what I mean? You're talking about all the greats, man. Like I said, anyone that I was listening to before I was doing this, having a Cold Crush tape, you know what I mean, to having a Treacherous 3 tape, way before I was even thinking about doing this, I'm a student to this, man. You know what I mean? And, the greatest thing that I could ever do is give back, you know what I mean, to this culture form of art of hip hop, you know what I mean? To let the greats know that I was listening and I want to give something back that you can listen to and be proud that what you were saying, it gravitated to a person like myself. And I just want to do the culture justice. You know what I mean?
You are, for sure. And we recognize it. And when would you say the beginning of studying self came into play? Was it when your cousin told you not to call him by his government name and that the black man is God? Was that when things really started to take form there?
Oh, no. I was too young then, you know what I mean? And, with the truth comes responsibility. I was only 9 years old when I first heard the truth, right? And I knew, even being so young, the responsibility of being able to live the truth, right? I wasn't old enough to hold that responsibility, you know what I mean? So I didn't apply myself to the truth until I was old enough that I could hold the responsibility of knowing the truth and being able to live it. You know what I mean?
And you've been vegan for a while now. So what kind of sparked that? Because you were vegetarian and then you turned it to vegan. You went to the vegan lifestyle. So when did this all transform to you? What made you decide to journey into this lifestyle?
Well, number one is a healthier lifestyle for you. You know what I mean? And there was a saying, "You are what you eat," right? You want to put life into your body. You're living, so you want to eat from the living. You want to put life inside of life. You know what I mean? So when I started understanding those principles and understanding that, wow, some of you look at, we're not animals, we're people, but you look at some of the strongest land animals. When you think about the horse, you think about the giraffe, the hippopotamus, the rhinoceros, the elephant. These are all plant eaters. You know what I mean? All plant and grass eaters, but they're the strongest, you know what I mean, in the jungle. You know what I mean? So, when you look at those principles, you can understand that you really don't have to eat anything dead and be even more healthy, you know what I mean? By feeding yourself life, you know what I mean? Putting life inside of life, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And when we look back on your rhymes as a whole, what would you say is your favorite rhyme that you gave to the Wu-Tang discography? Is there a favorite? Because Triumph, I know people love that. The Mystery Chessboxin was the one that set it off, but I love A Better Tomorrow because it really talks about just the jail overshadowing everything within the community. I think that was important that you went into on that song with Better Tomorrow off Wu-Tang Forever.
Mm. That's a tough question, brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough, man. I mean, I've written so many. Oh man, that's tough. That's really tough. You know what I mean? I would always say, the first rhyme is what got me here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if that's the favorite, but it's what got me here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would say number one, and that's Mystery of the Chessboxin.
Mystery of the Chessboxin. And Winter Wars, that was another one. You've had a lot. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Lots of big collaborations there and just big lyrics for you. And it's going to continue too. So what was this? Because it kind of came out of left field because I know you released your own album and then the Wu-Tang album came about. So was this kind of already planned or was this unexpected? Because I know you were going forth with the solo album. So was this kind of something that just was like, all right, we're dropping an album as a group too?
You mean the Black Samson?
The Black
album?
Samson album, yeah.
Well, that's actually a Law Math's album. You know what I mean? And listen, we're always. This is what we do, man. We're artists, man. You know what I mean? We build. You know what I mean? So we're constantly, creating. You know what I mean? But it's only you can actually say, okay, I think the world is, ready for this at this time. You know what I mean? And I think he saw it the same way as I saw it, and he released his project, and I followed him right up and released, Balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you did. And the key, that's what they call you, the key to the group, the key to the Wu-Tang.
Wow. Wow. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what they call you. They refer to you as the key. And I think that's true to say because when I look at your verses on these records, it's philosophical and just it's really deep. Well, we know all the Wu-Tang members are deep with what they bring to the records, but when we hear you stand out from the point of just your lyrics. It's just otherworldly, and I think you could tell that on the Triumph record because it was so different from everyone else's.
Right. It's I was in a very unique position to be able to sharpen my craft. At the same time, I'm learning from some of the best MCs that ever did it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm always grateful to my clan family that they allowed me to sharpen my sword. At the same time while we're growing together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And speaking of tours, you're about to go on this tour. I know you're going through the rehearsals right now. So I did have this curious question for you because I know you were going the Rage Against the Machine tour back in the day. Were you guys ever contacted to do the Woodstock '99 performance? I know DMX was there. It was Ice Cube was there. They had all these big acts. Did they contact you guys at all?
I'm not. That's you going back now, brother. That's hard to do it. That's hard to remember who exactly contacted us at that time. But I'm actually at rehearsal right now. You know what I mean? I just jumped off stage just to, kick it with you for a second, brother. You know what I mean? I got to actually get back up there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, yeah, man, to still be here, you know what I mean, 30 years later and still be relevant, you know what I mean? It's a true blessing, you know what I mean? And I'm thankful to all the fans who've been supporting, Wu-Tang since day one, you know what I mean? Because, without Wu-Tang, there's no Masta Killa. That's the foundation that birthed all of us, you understand? And I'm forever grateful to all the fans, and I just want them to come on out and enjoy this, the final chamber, tour, because it's gonna be special. You know what I mean? And thank you for supporting Balance. Thank you for the well reception of Balance. You know what I mean? And that's what we strive to do. We want to bring balance to the musical universe and just keep creating and bringing the fans great product, great music. You know what I mean?
Of course. Masta Killa, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was an honor to speak with you. Shout out to Mr. T for getting this set up, and I have Balance in my rotation. I'm going to keep promoting and pushing it for you. Keep doing your thing. We appreciate everything that you do for hip-hop, and you're always welcome on the show anytime you have anything on the way. And is there anything else that I'd actually want to close out with that? Is there anything else that you do have on the way that you can speak about besides the upcoming tour? And I know you just released a new album, but do you have anything else that you can speak on?
I could, but I'm going to hold that till I talk to you next time.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate that. Masta Killa, I want you to take care, enjoy the rest of your day, get back to those rehearsals. We look forward to the upcoming tour. And yeah, you always have a spot here. Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course. Take care, Masta Killa.
Yes, indeed. Peace.
Yes, peace.